Fighting in Syria continued this week as jihadists overtook the majority Armenian Christian border town of Kasab in the northern province and government stronghold of Latakia. The latest skirmish in the Syrian civil war between rebels and regime forces loyal to the Ba'ath government. Shortly after rebel forces took Kasab, which sits on the border with Turkey, the Asbarez Armenian-American newspaper in Los Angeles reported that scores of residents were dead and civilians were forced to leave their homes and flee to the countryside or to neighbouring towns. The newspaper's headline read that 80 people were dead and local churches had been desecrated. Citing eyewitness accounts, Asbarez reported that rebels who were affiliated with Al-Qaeda crossed over the border from Turkey into Kasab, took control of a couple of posts overlooking the town and attacked the population with mortar and sniper fire. Other than isolated reports from Armenian supporters, however, concrete proof of the attacks is not forthcoming, as the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights has recorded no casualties according to a recent report from Time magazine. No video or photograph images of attacks in Kasab have come to light. Phil Ornigo, an Iraqi Armenian living in the United States, was sceptical about the message sent by the Asbarez report, noting that rebels sought control of the town for military reasons. Contrary to what the flashy Asbarez headlines will have you believe, the rebels didn't come in to slaughter Armenians and destroy their churches, Nigo wrote. Kasab is a strategically important point in this military conflict. Syria is engaged in war, and Armenians in Syria cannot honestly believe that these events would not affect them. By February, rebels were preparing to take control of Khan Shaykhun, another northern town largely controlled by forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad, according to a report from Reuters. Moderate rebels attempting to cast their efforts into a more humanitarian light said in a recent statement that they are seeking to protect the interests and well-being of the Syrian population. We confirm our commitment to international human rights law by focusing on military targets and protecting all civil institutions, including schools, hospitals, places of worship and houses, according to the prepared statement, which was signed by 3 rebel groups, including Nusra Front, which is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. Ayman Jawad al-Tamimi, Shulman Ginsburg Fellow at the Middle East Forum, which is in Philadelphia, non-profit organisation, said, factions inside Syria have different notions about how to deal with minorities inside the nation. For the jihadi groups, for example, Alawites are branded as apostates and Christians are definitely second-class citizens. Other rebel coalitions speak of protecting minorities within the framework of Islamic law, but that hardly reassures those minorities, he said, noting that anti-Alawite and anti-Shia sentiment has become mainstream within the insurgency. Although moderate rebels are attempting to disseminate a softer message of universal values in their efforts to wrest control away from the al-Assad regime, others were more blunt. After 45 years of fighting and a cumulative death toll of more than 120,000 people in the Mindanao region, the south of the Philippines, government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front Muslim rebel group have signed a peace contract. As part of the agreement, the government will provide autonomy to the rebels, including influence over their own culture and economy, and the rebels agreed to lay down their weapons and break up their armed forces. Let us exchange our bullets for ripening fruit, our cynicism for hope, our histories of sorrow for the future of harmony, peace and prosperity, Philippine President Benigno Aquino said during a joint meeting with Malaysia Prime Minister Najib Razak. I will not let peace be snatched from my people again, Aquino added. For its part, Malaysia has attempted to orchestrate peace negotiations between the two sides since 2001, and Razak, whose nation has been embroiled in the search for the missing Malaysia Airlines plane, attended the ceremony to witness the historic peace signing. About 1,000 people attended the event, which included guerrilla rebel officers dressed in suits who walked the halls of Government Palace for the first time, according to an Associated Press report. For generations, fellow Filipinos in the region were embroiled in a cycle of poverty, injustice and violence. Aquino said, if we are to truly address the root causes of conflict, we must close the gap between region and the rest of Filipino society. The peace agreement, which is called the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro, stipulates that the current 5-region Muslim region is to be re-established as a larger and better financed area called Bangsamoro, which is a term rebels use to speak about Muslims and other groups in the southern part of the country. Rebel leader Murad Ibrahim said the plan was a shared victory between Bangsamoro and the Philippine government. The plan finally brings with it the restoration of the identity, powers and resources of the Bangsamoro, Ibrahim said. These 3 things which have been ours since time immemorial, unjustly taken through colonisation and occupation, are now returned to us. The case of Monsignor Peter Fran Tebartz-van Elst, also known as the Bling bishop, has finally come to a close. The Infidel has reported several times on the case of Tebartz-van Elst, who until recently served as the bishop of the Diocese of Limburg in Germany. Tebartz-van Elst offered his resignation in October after a scandal erupted after news of his lavish lifestyle began circulating in the region. The Pope temporarily expelled the bishop last year pending an official Vatican inquiry, and only recently determined to make the expulsion permanent. Rising in ranks to fill the vacancy, the pontiff has appointed an auxiliary bishop in Paderborn, Monsignor Manfred Groth. Tebartz-van Elst will receive a new assignment at a later time. In a statement issued by the Vatican, the Church officially urged people of the Limburg Diocese to accept the Pope's decision with docility and willingness to rediscover a climate of charity and reconciliation.